So last question, and it's sort of inspired on some level by what we've talked about in terms of the strategy around the BIF and the Build Back Better, and a piece that was in the Intercept about Amani Badhasso, who is challenging a congressperson from the congresswoman 21-year tenure in Congress, Betsy McCall from Minnesota, who has been claims progressive bona fides. I think in this article, she actually states that she voted for the BIF, which, placed her in some type of more progressive because you had voted against that agenda, which I thought was a little silly. But there was a quote from Badasso that was something to the effect of, here in the progressive movement, we have to think about what Democrat actually means beyond just who votes along a certain line. Frankly, we need leadership that just gives a damn about folks in the community. I think that a little bit speaks to what the cues are for people in Congress. But in terms of leadership, Nancy Pelosi had made a pledge that she was not going to retain leadership if, past this term, if I remember correctly. I don't know if she intends to maintain that pledge. And I don't know if it will be as Speaker of the House come 2022. But at one point, people are going to have to retire. I think it is stunning, frankly.
I don't think I like where this is going.
Well, I mean, what is going on in terms of like planning for the leadership fight that is coming? And it is going to be a big fight. And where do you have a sense of who the progressive candidate for leadership, or what the strategy is, or any of that?
Oh, good God. There are a lot of candidates. I think people are making the rounds. I refuse to take phone calls from people who want to talk about leadership for a term that many of us don't even know what will ultimately happen, who will come back and who won't, and whether we will be in the majority or in the minority. And I think strategically things shift when you're in the minority, having served in the Minnesota House in the minority. So I couldn't tell you what the pitch has been from people, because I have not answered the calls from.
Well, I'm more interested in not so much the pitch that you're getting, but the agenda. I mean, surely there must be talk amongst the progressive caucus or against the squad, amongst the squad, as to who you would prefer, or if, generically speaking, but I imagine that there's some names associated with that generic vision of who would be the right type of leadership. Have you guys had those conversations? Do you have ideas? I mean, how much work is being done? Is there, I mean, I understand your reluctance to be too specific in this situation, but.
Yeah, but I want people to sort of, I know we get asked this question quite a lot, and I think that there's a lot of emphasis on who the person is, what their, progressive qualifications are, who are you going to support? What are they going to prioritize? And I just want to remind people that almost everyone that is in leadership right now came to Congress as pretty progressive. And they, were people who, again, our whole thing as Democrats is for the people agenda, right? We are supposed to be advocating an agenda that is for the people. And many a times, it seems like corporate donors get their way more than the people do. And so we cannot delude ourselves with this delusion that people do not change the way they govern and what they prioritize when they get into a leadership position like the speakership, or being the chair of the Democratic caucus, or the chair of the DNC, or the majority leader in the Senate. If you think about Chuck Schumer, his voting record and the pieces of legislation that he sometimes puts on the floor that he himself votes against are not aligned. And so When you're talking about a holistic agenda and what will be pushed forward, sometimes it doesn't depend on the person that is in leadership. I think the leadership position does change you, and so I am not somebody who likes to get their heart broken. So I'm not gonna invest a lot of energy into thinking about what the person is today, because I know that people who are there right now who have shifted their positions. And as the whip of the Progressive Caucus, I know that many of the chairs within the Democratic caucus, many who have leadership positions, either were founders of the Progressive Caucus or still dues-paying members of the Progressive Caucus. I whip them on questions on how they're going to vote. And I'm constantly shocked, and I think to the American public, especially the progressive left, it's easy for us to want people who have integrity, people who have the courage to stand for their convictions, people who are principled. And in reality, that is just a small number of people who have those characteristics who ascend to leadership positions.
My fear, I guess, is just that it seems that someone like Hakeem Jeffries is set up to potentially succeed Pelosi in this instance. And
who's a member of the Progressive Caucus.
Absolutely. It's just, and Barbara Lee was narrowly defeated by him for Dem Caucus chair, and it seemed like that was a bit more rushed. And so is there any push, I guess, for the progressives to line up somebody and coalesce behind someone early to, at the very least, push whoever eventually becomes speaker to the left?
Yes. I mean, obviously that is our goal. Those of us who are progressives in Congress are not there to push people to the center or to the right. We are constantly doing everything that we can to move a progressive agenda. And, we ultimately are creating pressure spots for people to do that.
Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Minnesota's 5th Congressional District. Thank you so much for coming on today. I have still some more questions about that, but the leadership fight's a little bit ways away, so we can hopefully catch up with you again on that in the future.
Well, I'm always around to chat.
All right, appreciate your time today.
Thanks so much.